Ben.
Yes. Hello.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Hello. Hello,
Hi.
Senator. We are well. And Chris, we figured you were not an imposter. We figured you had an important role. That's why you were here. So welcome. Senator, my name is Leslyn McBean Claiborne. I'm the current chair of the Tompkins County Legislature. And certainly do want to extend welcome to you and thank you for joining us today. I am not going to take up too much time, but we'll go around just so you know who else is on this call. And then I will turn the agenda over to Martha Robertson, who chairs our Tompkins County Intergovernmental Committee, and the committee is sort of responsible for pulling these meetings together so that we can go through a quick agenda. And one thing we do want to know off the top is about how much time do we have with you?
I think we have about a half hour.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll try to get through as much as we can in that half an hour. So once again, welcome and nice to meet you.
Nice
Deborah,
to meet you. Thank you.
thank you. You want to say quickly who you are around the room?
Yeah, I'm Deborah Dawson. I live in the village of Lansing, so I'm one of your constituents on this call.
Martha Robertson, town of Dryden, and we've met a number of times.
Annie?
Ann Corman, town of Ulysses and Enfield, just slightly out of your district, but I chair our planning environmental, chair of planning energy and environmental quality committee.
Nice to meet you.
Henry?
Yes, I'm Henry Grandison. I'm in the city of Ithaca, Bryant Park, and Bell Sherman neighborhoods.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Lisa?
Hi, Senator Helming. I'm Lisa Holmes. I am the Deputy County Administrator.
Good to see you, Lisa.
You too.
Rich?
Hi, I'm Rich John. I'm one of the city reps. And we met long, long ago before a pandemic hit. I remember being up in your office. So
It does feel
Nice
like
to
a
see you
long
again.
time ago, huh?
Indeed. Mike?
Hi, Pam. It's Mike.
Hey, Mike, good to see you.
Good seeing you.
All right. And Martha, why don't you go ahead and continue the agenda?
Thank you very much, Leslyn. And Senator, we sent an agenda like last night or this morning with a whole bunch of things and a number of attachments. But I think we'd better focus on just a couple of things to start with. Deborah has to leave shortly, or may have to leave very shortly. So if we could go to, she wants to talk about the STOA funding for transportation, and then perhaps talk about emergency rental assistance, which is, just, in fact, I'm not even sure it's on this list. Yeah, it's on there. But so since you're the ranking member of the Housing Committee, would be important for us to get to that. So Deborah, go ahead.
Thanks, Martha. And thank you, Senator, for your time. I know you're very busy. In the interest of brevity, I'll try to cut my speech a little short, but transit systems really stepped up during the pandemic and provided mobility services that were desperately needed by healthcare, food service, and other essential workers in their communities. But unfortunately, it cost us more to provide less service, and we lost revenue because there were fewer riders. And that had an impact on our finances, which, if not addressed, will severely limit our ability to increase our services and help our communities economically recover. Our ridership here at TCAT fell by over 80% at times during the pandemic, and it's recovering only very, very slowly. And of course, this impacted our fare revenue. And not for the STOA hold harmless provisions, even the CARES funding that we received would not have kept us afloat. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the hold harmless on the STOA, Senator, but basically what it did was it based our STOA aid on our 2019 ridership levels rather than cut us all the way down to our 2020 revenue, our ridership levels, so that we got about 80% of 2019. So on behalf of our transit system, I just wanted to ask you to consider the following. to extend the STOA hold harmless provisions through March 31st of next year, continuing to use the pre-COVID ridership levels as a basis for ongoing STOA distributions. Consider increasing the STOA funding levels gradually over the next 5 years with a goal towards increasing them by a total of 50%. Continue and perhaps increase the funding for rural transportation under the State Department of Health budget, and develop a robust 5-year capital funding program for non-MTA transit systems in New York State. NIPTA documented the need for $1.7 billion in non-MTA infrastructure investments over the next 5 years, but we only can project perhaps $700 million in available revenue. That leaves a $1 billion funding gap that local governments and local transit systems simply cannot fill. So if you would thoughtfully consider those issues, we would very much appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Senator, you're on mute.
Thanks, Martha. Deborah, I will definitely consider all of those requests. I was taking notes as fast and furious as I can. I think I missed a couple of things. Is there a summary in this packet that was sent to me that outlines all of this?
I don't know because Martha sent the packet, but I would be glad to send you or Chris any of the information that you might need.
Every year I fight for increased funding for rural transportation. I know that's a dramatic need across the state, especially in our rural communities. I got the hold harmless extension and the need to increase the funding so that it rises to a certain level. But if there's a quick summary that you wouldn't mind emailing to me, that would be helpful.
Okay.
And it doesn't have, it could just be bullet points. It doesn't have to be anything, too much.
I can provide that, Senator. Thank you.
Thank you.
We sent, I think our staff person sent the email today. Can we just use that? Just go with that? Or should we have Chris's email?
No, you could send it to wherever the other stuff came. It all made it to the right place. I have it all, so.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. Yeah, we've been using the NISAC summary of the one house bill from the Senate, the one house budget bill. And so that was, we see a lot of good things in there, such as restoring 5% withholding from the state that the governor had put in, and rejecting the sales tax diversion from the Distress Hospital Fund and AIM-AID. We didn't find anything about STOA aid in that document. So maybe we're not sure where it stands. And so that's a good reason to highlight it.
Okay. Martha, I've also been using the NISAC, the interim report. I was looking for, and I'm hoping it'll be coming out soon, a position on some of these issues, right? The summary that I looked at, they basically just restated what's in the one house versus governor's budget, I think, but they really haven't said what their position is or what they're looking for, asking for. So I'm hoping that'll be out soon.
I can also send you to follow up the their summary request in the budget. So, or what they do is it's a response to the executive budget.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll send you that.
Thank you.
On a federal housing aid, now this is obviously not something in the state budget, but it's very much in the state's budget, if you will. In the COVID relief bills passed in December, there was $25 billion nationally for emergency rental assistance. In the new rescue plan, there's $21.6 billion for rental assistance. And this is really important to actually pay the rent. We're worried about the moratorium, eviction moratorium, that's when it's going to end within a few months. What will happen not only to the people then who are renting and haven't been able to pay, but we're worried about that huge unpaid bill. So many small landlords that just, what do they do about fixing the heater or paying their taxes if they're not getting the rent? So this federal aid is critical. For you probably know, for communities 200,000 or for counties 200,000 or more, the federal bills have said they will get that aid directly. For smaller counties like most of upstate New York, we're supposed to get that aid through the state. But so far, we can't get any information about how that's going to happen. Do you have any information that, or anybody we should talk to?
I would say the person to talk to, at least on the Senate side, is the chair of the Housing Committee, Brian Kavanaugh. But if any of you follow me on Facebook, I've been posting videos, I think I have, of the Housing Committee meetings, the Senate Housing Committee meetings. Also, I've spoken on the floor about this issue, and we had just last week a budget subcommittee meeting with the entire Senate, and I represented the areas of, oh, you guys will love it, housing, environment, and agriculture. So throw it in your wheelhouse, right, for a lot of you. But anyway, the whole housing issue, my primary concern is there are a lot of great programs out there to help small landlords and also the tenants. But the problem, as I've seen it, and Martha, I think I've heard you talk to Congressman Reed about this issue too, is making sure that that money gets where it needs to go. Last spring, the state got millions and millions in federal funding. Less than half of that was pushed out the door, right? Because New York State likes to micromanage things so tightly that the money, it didn't get out, it didn't go into the hands of the tenants or the landlords. So I feel really good about some of the legislation that's been introduced that will help tenants and landlords work together to be able to tap in some of the money to get the small landlords paid. I feel good about the programs that will help reduce homelessness. Well, you shouldn't say it. Have you heard about the program that's proposed in the budget that would allow for the conversion of vacant commercial properties, including hotels with under 150 rooms, to be converted into homeless shelters? Right now, it's potentially really good, right? A really good program. But right now, the language in the budget limits it to New York City. So I've been a strong advocate for let's expand that throughout the state. We have homelessness issues throughout the state, and we have these empty commercial buildings, and some of them are in great locations to house people, right? They're convenient to services, they're on bus lines. So really trying to get Senator Kavanaugh to take a lead on expanding that. Actually, on the floor the other day during the budget debate, I did ask Senator Krueger about that program. She turned to Senator Generis, it's his bill, and he did say on the floor that he would consider expanding it to New York State. So I think if we could get some letters and some push, some support for that, maybe we will see it come out in the final budget. But I think to your point, there's money out there. There are great programs, but we need to get the correct structure in place so that it gets pushed out, whether it's going to the counties to distribute or whether it's going through homes and community renewal at the state level, whoever it's coming through. But there needs to be clear guidance and direction on how to get that money out the door.
All right, well, I have a sort of detailed list of issues that our social services commissioner gave us. I can send that. It looks like we're going to have a big email dump back to you. So I'll definitely include that level of detail.
Okay.
Because it's, it's clearly administrative and the money is supposed to move. So,
and I just want to say this quickly. One of the things that I think there's some misunderstanding out there is about landlords, right? There's a lot of, I think, understanding about New York City area landlords that maybe don't do the best job possible for the tenants, and there's areas to make improvements. In upstate New York, I mean, we need our small landlords to stay in business, right? We need that housing stock. We don't have enough as it is. And interesting is that the housing groups that are calling me, they represent Finger Lakes area, upstate area, even some New York City areas. It's interesting to me that they're women or minorities. And I think when I talk to my colleagues here in the state about landlords associations, I think they have a different image of just who it is, right?
Right. No, absolutely. it's a very interconnected economy. There's no, I mean, it's really been important that the eviction moratorium has been there, but we can't just leave landlords holding the bag. Doesn't work.
I have one more quick thing on the program that I think is, it's going to be tough, right? So this program that's proposed in the state budget, it would allow landlords to get payments from those federal dollars as long as the tenant signs off. But if a landlord agrees to take back rent from that program, they have to then certify that they will not increase rent or utilities for 1 year, that they will not evict the person for 1 year. Sounds good, but again, these are small landlords that we're talking about. If their property taxes go up, if the utility costs increase, if they have maintenance issues, for them to be locked into 1 year, I think that might create a problem where these landlords don't enter into that program, and we'll just push for evictions. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. I've asked for that to be modified, but we'll see what happens.
You mean
That's going to be I'm sorry. That's going to be a problem too with their property insurance, because I know insurance has gone up by about 25% due to the increased cost of materials and construction labor.
so you mean, in other words, if the landlord agrees to take that rental assistance for back rent, they have to promise no increase for a year? Okay. All right. If we can turn also, we have a number of public safety related and civil service related issues, and Lisa Holmes is our best spokesperson on that, and she has to get to a 5 o'clock meeting. So, Lisa?
Sure, I'll try to run down the list as quickly as I can. The first item is about the implementation of the state's raise the age policy, which I think we all agree we don't want to see 16 and 17-year-olds locked up in jail. However, in our rural upstate counties, the Finger Lakes and Southern Tier region, we do not have an option currently that we can comply with the state mandate. We do not have specialized secure detention or even secure detention beds available to us. OCFS has said that we cannot build a facility. We were working with an 11 county region to try to build a facility because our surrounding counties are equally as affected by this. We don't have the population of youth that need it, but when we do need it, when these cases occur, we need it quite urgently. So this is put us in a very difficult situation. So we would like to see this addressed on a state level. On the parole reform issue, and I know recently our county public safety and legislature passed a resolution on less is more, addressing technical parole violations. And this addresses the number of inmates in our county jail who are there as a result of technical parole violations, and we would support parole reform to address that. And feel free, anyone, to jump in on any of these in addition. But I'll jump then to our reimagining public safety efforts locally in the county. As part of those recommendations, we have three issues that we would request support from our state partners on that have to do with the civil service aspects of it and state civil service. One is to revise the civil service exam process to either a pass-fail system or broaden the band scoring. And this is to help us to recruit a more broad and diverse recruitment pool to add to the diversity in our law enforcement officers and corrections as well, to more flexibility in the civil service exam process. Also, the continuous recruitment for those positions in both law enforcement and corrections. Currently, we're limited to certain times of year when we can, when these exams are held. They have to coincide with police academy training, and it really limits the number of qualified applicants that we can consider at any one time. And then finally, reforming the disciplinary procedures under Section 75. So currently, under Section 75 of State Civil Service Law, it calls for protracted disciplinary proceedings, which they're very costly. After 1 month of unpaid leave, individuals who are involved in discipline are on paid leave. Currently, we have, up to a year or 18 months while we're waiting for the disciplinary process to occur. It ties up needed personnel resources because our sheriff and corrections cannot hire for those positions while we're awaiting for the disciplinary process. So there are some exceptions under town laws and city charters where it can call for local discretion on the disciplinary procedures for law enforcement. And we would ask for the state to partner and consider this moving forward as a way to assist with true public safety reform on the local level.
Okay.
Yeah, these are all an important, very important part of the recommendations that are in our Reimagining Public Safety report, a result of Executive Order 203 and really intensive conversations and collaboration in our community. So these are real important reforms that would we feel would make a difference.
Thank you.
If, again, I tried to take notes, but if I could just get a summary, that would be helpful.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, Lisa, if you want to send that to me, I'll put everything together. I was looking at the clock when you said a half hour. Did you mean 5 o'clock or a half an hour from when we?
Yeah, half hour from when we started. I was a little late, I know, joining.
Okay. Well, let me just open it up. Does anybody else want to pick a topic off the agenda and sort of go for it? Leslie, Annie, Rich?
Martha, before we go there, I just want to re-emphasize something Lisa said about civil service. Senator, several years ago, the county, through its Workforce Diversity Committee and in conjunction with a class from Cornell University, made a proposal to the state to to allow us to do a pilot pass-fail civil service method instead of, the top three, the top band. And it wasn't accepted. We wanted to pilot it with our Department of Social Services to see if we'll get better results recruiting particularly marginalized groups of people to take the exams and to see how they'll fare, because what we found is that most people in our minoritized communities who take the exams pass the exams but don't necessarily fall within that top three. So it's not an indication that people can't take the exam or can't do the job, but if you don't score 100, you don't make it. And so we did ask the state and the Civil Service Commission to allow for that, and we hope to be able to revisit that. If the exams need to stay in place, can we revisit that and move to the entire state move to a pass-fail system, which we think will be much more equitable. So just wanted to throw that in there.
Did you get any feedback from the Civil Service Commission? Why they rejected it? Was it money or something else?
It wasn't money. I don't remember the exact feedback. What I do remember is they felt it was a system that works as it is right now and weren't inclined to make any changes to it.
So
That was all.
I can tell you briefly about my experience with civil service. Before I got elected to the state senate, I was a town supervisor. And it was the first time I ever had any experience with civil service. And the county gave me a list and said, you have to hire one of these top three. And I'm like, well, none of them are qualified. But they're like, well, they scored the highest on the test. I'm like, but they don't, you know what I mean? But it did,
Yeah.
so I see room, definitely see room for improvement in that area.
Well, we definitely will appreciate your advocacy for that because it will make a huge difference. So thank you. Thanks for sharing your experience.
Yes, it's, I mean, it seems if somebody's got the competency to pass the test, that should be, that then other qualifications should come into play. And this is a state, we're glad there was a state executive order. It was the right thing to do to force all of us to really dig in and look at public safety. And these are key issues related to making a more just society. But this issue is across all of our departments. It's the same, the same issue, and it's not just about diversity, but it's about fairness to all different kinds of applicants.
Absolutely.
Before we go, I do want to also really mention that we want to thank you for the fiber right-of-way bill, the bill that you sponsored last year about broadband. And I wanted to make sure we got that in there to thank you for that, about the DOT right-of-way fee that would add thousands and thousands to our broadband initiatives in the rural areas of the state. It's I hope that it'll get rescinded this year. I think
Martha, I believe there's a new internet tax in the Senate and Assembly one house budgets.
In the Assembly budget?
It's in both budgets. I don't know if we have easy access to it because that's another area that I talked about on the floor. That there's a new internet tax. Carmela, do you know? Carmela just heard me talking about it. This is a pet peeve. We can't say that we're going to do better to get internet services out to people when we keep adding these taxes on to the service providers. They just won't build here.
That was for the tax on the service provider. I know that the governor had said that he wanted to have, below a certain income level that people's fees would get capped at $30 or something a month. Was that a tax to pay for that?
We'll do some digging on our end and we'll email that to you. Okay.
I see Chris has something in the chat. So, okay. Thank you very much. We'll check into that.
And the governor pocket vetoed the broadband stuff. Yeah.
Right. But thank you for bringing that up last year. Henry or Rich or Annie or Mike, I don't want to leave you out of this. Go, Rich.
Thanks. I'm just curious with the amount of work we did on public safety reform. We really took it seriously, and we've got a pretty ambitious plan. Is there going to be any state money for counties that are taking it seriously and really want to do new and innovative stuff?
I believe that there
Did you hear about it? Is there anything in the budget?
I believe that there is some money for implementation in the budget. Again, how that will be rolled out, I don't know. But I'll just throw this in because, as you all know, I represent several small communities as well, right? And I sat in on some of their Reimagine meetings, their hearings, where the community provided feedback. They all took it very seriously. Everyone was open to the idea, like, look, we could do better. We need to listen to people and incorporate that in. My fear now is the way that New York State, the grant programs work. Like if you have to apply for grants, Tompkins County, you guys, you have great people on staff, right? You're very competitive. You're able to secure a lot of money. But for a lot of my smaller communities, they don't have like those qualified professionals on staff. Hiring would require them to go above the 2% tax cap. It's a nightmare. And I don't think it's fair for the state to say, we want you to do A, B, and C without providing some direct funding to everyone who is complying with whatever it is the state's asking for. So that's all just a personal beef I have. I'll advocate for everyone to get their fair share of funding.
Thank you. That's at least more promising than we knew about. So thank you very much. Anyone else? Mike, go.
Well, yeah, it's not really on the agenda. I don't want to sound too much like a broken record because we kind of talked about it last week or the week before. And, you know, the solar is still a concern for me. Utility scale solar next there is already secured, apparently all the land in Lansing it needs. And it's my understanding they're actually going after another 1,500 acres in Groton. So we're looking at about 3,000 acres of continuous solar panels through the two towns. And, you know, I'm not asking for moratoriums or anything. I'm looking for better setbacks and better greenage because frankly, what happened with community solar around the state has not left me impressed with a lot of what's been done with solar so far. And these utility scale ones are just enormous. I mean, 3,000 acres would be 6 Ithaca airports. So, and these are going basically 100 feet from people's property lines who already lived here. So that's my number one concern right now for Lansing. So. I hear dogs.
Sorry.
I hear you, Mike, and continue to work with you on the issue. Look, I really think that it's a local issue and that local people should be able to have say in the zoning regulations. They should have say in the setback requirements, and it should require local approval. I know last year, several of us had conversations on the Article 10 and the new article, what is it, 22 or whatever. I still feel strongly, and I know people on this call disagree with me, that it took away the ability to have that local control that you need to have. I don't know, the solar issue is it's a touchy subject. It definitely, those large scale commercial projects changed the character of the community. They changed the landscape. On the other hand, you have property owners who have been paying taxes on their property for years and years, and now they're looking for a way to recoup or to survive. So I really am an advocate for let the decision making be done at the local level. I don't think the state can step in and should step in and tell communities what they should or shouldn't do.
Well, that was certainly the viewpoint in New York State when it came to fracking, but it doesn't seem to be the case with solar. So.
Well, there are a lot of, we've made some comments on the ORES, Office of Renewable Energy siting regulations. And among the things that we were proposing is that if the cost to connect to the grid could be spread across the entire, entire state really, rather than borne by a single project, then that would help to make more rational decisions about where those big projects are going to be sited. So that's, it's a complicated issue. And I know it's, the utility scale, I think up to 24 megawatts, it's not considered utility, but it's, there's got to be a threshold somewhere. So I think, Mike, you've got just under 25 megawatts, right? Probably. So it's large. It's large. We understand. And the with agriculture is really a challenge.
No, the one in Lansing, just the one is about 200 megawatts that's planned. And then if they tie in the Groton one too, that would be another 200 megawatts. Okay. The line can hold about 400 megawatts. So that's what they're looking at.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Martha, I found, so in the summary that I did on the Senate One House regarding the internet, it says advances language to impose more taxes on internet providers to be used to subsidize high-speed internet for schools and families with children. So this is in addition to the right-of-way tax.
Okay. More blood from a stone, I guess. Okay. So, all right. It is really important that that as we saw in the pandemic just put a big spotlight on this, that we've really, it's like rural electrification back in the 30s. This is not a luxury anymore. It's really essential, and we have to find a way to make sure it's accessible and affordable.
Absolutely.
Well, we are delighted to meet with you this way and look forward to when we can meet with you in person.
Absolutely.
And thank you so very much for your time. We really appreciate how accessible you've always been. Anybody else have other comments to wrap up?
No, just thank you, Senator, for taking the time. And I want to echo what Rich said about, and you as well, hoping that we'll get some funding from the state for our implementation plan. And it doesn't come at a place where people have to be competitive for it. This is something that has to happen. We have to do this kind of change. Too many people are being disproportionately affected by policing. And it's a good initiative. We just, really want it to also come across with funding that way. So like you said, the smaller communities aren't competing with those of us who have the resources to be able to do it. So I really appreciate that thought from you as well.
Well, I think we also, and I know this is a sore subject, but we have to look at if there are other cuts that are proposed in law enforcement. Like one that still drives me crazy to this day is the CIT training, it was called Crisis Intervention Team Training. And for years, like my counties all got funding. I'm not sure about Tompkins. I only have that little piece of Lansing and Tompkins County, but it was significant in Ontario, Wayne, and Seneca counties. And I would go to some of their trainings. So they would have their mental health departments from the county train with the sheriff's office, corrections, probation, everyone in the same place at the same time talking about things. And I saw progress being made. So it just drives me crazy for the state to say whatever they're saying and to cut that funding or to chop that funding out. It's so important that, anything that promotes this cross training or advances mental health, working with law enforcement, whatever it is, we can't let that slide through the cracks. We can't let it fall away. We've got to maintain that. And then in addition, like you're saying, do whatever we can to help people, the communities implement their new plans.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you all. Leslie, you have an amazing team. Congratulations. I've heard nothing but positive things surrounding the pandemic in Tompkins County, your response, whether it was way at the beginning, getting PPE supplies and getting that out where it was needed, and now with the vaccines. It's just been all positive. Sometimes I feel like I need to spend more time with all of you in Tompkins County, but quite honestly, like some of the other counties that I represent, they need more help than you do. But please know, if I can help in any way, just give me a call.
Thank you. And similarly for us in Tompkins County, we were always willing to help our neighbors.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Have a
Take
good
care.
Bye-bye.